everyone, my name is Savannah. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today we are back in Planet Zoo after a bit of a little hiatus here. I know it's been a hot minute since I've jumped into the game, but I just needed a little bit of a break. However, nothing gets me more motivated or more inspired than creating a whole new project. So that is what we are doing today. This project, of course, is called Meadowside Park. And I do have some pretty specific inspiration and plans for what I want to do for this zoo. So let's go ahead and get on into that. Now, I started this project actually when I received early access for the new Barnyard Animal Pack. Is that what it's called? The most recent Planet Zoo pack with all of the farm animals. And so I really got to thinking about what I might want to do with those kinds of new animals. And it really made me think of like smaller, like quaint little zoo projects. And there's a zoo that I've actually been to a handful of times because I have family that lives right next to it. And that's the Atascadero Zoo in Atascadero, California. And this zoo is called actually the Charles Paddock Zoo, I think is what it was originally called, or now that's what it's called. It was originally called the Atascadero Zoo. Regardless, Charles Paddock is what it's called now, is a very, very small zoo. It's absolutely the smallest zoo that I have ever personally visited myself. And over the years of going there, again, I've mentioned I've been there a handful of times, starting all the way back, 5 or 6 years ago was the first time that I ever visited. They've made quite a lot of improvements and continue to do construction and build new exhibits and things like that. And so I thought it would be the perfect inspiration for this kind of like small town, rural looking little project. And of course, I want to use all of the brand new farm animals that came with the Barnyard pack, but we don't get to them for quite a while because I am starting off with the entrance. That's what this episode is all about today. We're going to build the entirety of the entrance area. And then I've actually already completed episode 2. I just need to do the voiceover recording and editing for that one. But we end up adding flamingos and peafowl. So then after that, we will get to the barn animals. So for this project, as I mentioned, very highly inspired by the Charles Paddock Zoo, I do want to do some recreation, but not stick exactly one for one. I've talked about this in past projects, I know, but when I sit down to recreate something, one of the things that really kind of kills my inspiration and causes me a bit of frustration is if I try to sit down and create something like an exact replica, I tend to get a little frustrated if it doesn't work out, if I feel like it's not looking right. And so because of that, I tend to kind of stay away from doing exact replicas and usually just use my inspiration photos for just inspiration. So this entrance building is what we're working on here, is very heavily inspired and will look extraordinarily similar to the Charles Paddock Zoo entrance, but it's not going to be an exact replica. It is a bit of a funky building. It's like 3 different style buildings kind of all squished together. And the thing that actually made me think of this zoo, not only because it's a smaller, more rural zoo, is because this main entrance building actually has a barn on the back of it. And in the real life zoo, that barn is a gift shop, which I do intend to kind of recreate in here as well. But I was still afraid to put down the gift shop like module piece because of all the crashing that it had previously been causing. And I have yet to test it out in my game in like another project that I'm not really afraid of losing. So down the line, that is my intention, is to add a gift shop into that barn, but being obviously a barn goes really well with the Barnyard Animal Pack, and so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go ahead and try to stay a little true to the entrance area of the Charles Paddock Zoo. So we're gonna work on the entrance here as well as kind of like the surrounding like parking lot area. I don't go too in depth with building the parking lot this time, just because I wanted to go ahead and jump to adding some animals and kind of circle back to the parking lot a bit later, just because I didn't want this video to be, you know, hours and hours long. It's already on the longer end of where I kind of want my videos to be at about 35 minutes or so, 33 minutes I think it's going to end up being. So we might circle back and do that. However, one of the main things that I want to accomplish with this park is completing it. Now, I know that sounds a little silly, but if you're not new to the channel, you'll know I don't think I have ever fully completed a project start to finish. Because my inspiration comes in waves and I kind of just build what I want to build, and a lot of times I have a lot of different projects going at the same time because I never know what I'm going to be inspired to build. And with this project, what I really want to do is an idea I actually stole from a friend of mine, Masked Bandit, who makes a lot of Planet Coaster content. He went ahead and built a park and restricted himself to, I think it was like a 50 by 50 square, and committed to filling the entire thing and completing a park, kind of like a mini park. So I haven't really decided on my personal dimensions for this park, but that's kind of what I'm going for, is I want to restrict the footprint of this zoo, and I want to fill it all out, and I want to complete it. I'm determined. After years of Planet Zoo being out, and me never really finishing a project, I'm determined to make this one the one. Now, in a few more episodes, you can tell me if I've either succeeded or I've failed. Obviously, I'll know if I've either succeeded or failed, but I really, really want to try to make it happen. Time frame for it, though, is I'm really not holding myself to any specific time frame for getting this project done, because life, I've had to really kind of come to terms with the fact that I work a full-time job. I have a boyfriend, I have a family, I have many pets of my own, I have other hobbies, and I have a lot to do, and YouTube is still a hobby, and I want it to continue to be fun for me. So trying to get this done without pushing myself past my limits and burning myself out is going to be my main focus going forward on the channel as a whole. So I want to make sure that I don't burn myself out too fast and not complete this project, because like I said, I really do want to complete it. So that's going to be the plan going forward. I am very open to suggestions for additions or tweaks. I do want to treat this project much like I'm treating many of my recent projects, in that I will do a big chunk of work, release an episode, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything I worked on is going to be like done and complete and never touched again. I absolutely will go back to something if I've changed my mind or I want to tweak the way that it's done, make it fit in a little bit better, move an animal around or something like that. So we'll see. But here I'm working on kind of the front entrance area with the concrete. I wanted to give it a bit of a pattern just to give it a little bit more interest. Something that I very rarely do in my projects is kind of custom ground. And I've started incorporating it in the River Rock Zoo remodel, where I did some custom flooring, custom concrete, and I'm trying to cover a lot of the ground with actual pieces instead of just using in-game pathing. So I don't know if I'll necessarily continue that all throughout this park. If I remember correctly, without going through and looking at my reference photos, most of this park is kind of concrete or asphalt, really kind of simplistic pathing all the way around the park. So that might be what I try to replicate going forward. Now, I mentioned reference pictures. Everything that I'm using is actually stuff that I took or recorded myself, and I do believe the walkthrough of the Charles Paddock Zoo is actually on my channel as a bit of a vlog, because I did record like an entire walkthrough. I think it must have been a couple years ago now. But as I say, I've been there a handful of times, and I always obviously take pictures and some videos and stuff like that. And so this is the first project that I'm working on that I actually have reference pictures that I took myself that I can look at. So if you're interested in seeing the actual zoo that I am working off of, you can go ahead and check that vlog out on the channel and see what it's all about. Now, when you first enter Charles Paddock Zoo, on the left-hand side, there are flamingos and a walk-through aviary. I did decide to keep that in the park because, I mean, flamingos at the entrance, right? That's a given. You can't have a zoo project without flamingos at the entrance. So I wanted to stay true to that. And then the walk-through aviary is something that I wanted to incorporate as well. It didn't come out quite how I originally anticipated. It is a little difficult to make kind of smaller scale things in Planet Zoo. If you play, you know. And we really don't have a lot of like walk-through bird species, so I end up putting like a swan and then some peafowl in it. But anyway, moving on after that, my next plan for episode 3 would be to incorporate the barnyard animal pack, and that being probably putting in some alpacas and maybe some chickens. There is an area in the back of the Charles Paddock Zoo that has kind of this older, like wooden kind of building, kind of like a barn. And I kind of want to like take that and move it to the front and make it like the little walk through, or maybe the children's area, like right when you enter to the front right of the zoo. Just to the front right next to this barn building that I'm working on now is actually their tiger exhibit, which is also something that I want to include in this park as well. It is a much smaller tiger exhibit than most zoos have, and I believe they only have one tiger as of now. It's an incredibly old exhibit and definitely not like the gold standard of tiger exhibits. But that's part of what I like about this project, is a lot of times I try to keep in, you know, realism and the best kind of possible environments for the animals and stuff like that. But sometimes it's fun to challenge myself and maybe build something that is not really, you know, gold standard, is not really the best. Because even though I'm sure it meets the animals' needs and they are regulated by the AZA, and so they obviously take really good care of their animals, you know, not all zoos have the budget of the San Diego Zoo that can build these multi-million-dollar expansions and exhibits. And I think it's fun to kind of use those projects, or use those zoos rather, as references and build in that style. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing here in this project. Now, other than that, they did up until recently have like a Fusa, they have red pandas, they have binturongs, they have meerkats. I think it's an American crocodile, some sort of crocodile species or something like that. So there are a lot of options to add animals in the game that we have in Planet Zoo. But I think I also will be like taking out and replacing some of the animals. No plans are set in stone, but I definitely want to, again, as I mentioned, not keep this as a one-for-one replica. So finishing up here on the barn, just giving it some windows, and then I start here to work on the doors. This is going to be like an indoor gift shop, and I just need to kind of put the pieces down. And this building actually, don't quote me and don't hold me to it, may get a bit of an interior. We'll see how I'm feeling. But I do want it to not look so empty when you're looking inside of it. I'm working on these barn doors here, but I liked the way that they look when they're open, and so I don't really want to close them, which means that I probably have to put something inside of it. So again, we'll see. I'm not a huge fan of building interiors, but as I say, I do want to kind of leave these doors open. I think they look so good with the way that they're left open, and I do kind of like a little like mock track above it, so it looks like they can slide open and closed. I do these doors on this side, but also the opposite side, so there are actually two entrances to this little gift shop area. I think I do want to put down some like food and snacks, maybe like the little counters or something like that for the guests as well, so that they can utilize that like right when they enter the park. I do want to take a minute to talk about the Barnyard Animal Pack itself though, because I don't think I've talked too much about it since it's come out. It is of course an animal pack, but we did get some build pieces with it as well. So you may have noticed me use kind of the fence post pieces as like roofing support for the front entrance building. And that may actually potentially be the only thing that I use in this part of the build. I kind of went back and used a lot of my like tried and true favorite pieces for this. But overall, I am happy with the Barnyard Animal Pack. I do like the animals that were added. I think it's really fun to add some domesticated animals and kind of flesh out like the petting zoo section of zoos. That was something that was highly requested, so very excited that that came into the game. The breeds of animals that were chosen, I like the chickens. The goats are amazing. The cattle is very cute, although I personally don't see them in a lot of zoos. And then the sheep species I don't see in a lot of zoos either. But that's not to say they're bad. I just wouldn't have picked them, I guess, maybe. But the cows are absolutely adorable with like their little hair hanging over their face. Absolutely adorable. So I do plan to add, as I said, the majority of the animals that came in the Barnyard Animal Pack, and utilize a lot of the pieces eventually in some of like the more themed areas, because I do plan on doing like a little barn petting zoo like kid type area. Super happy that Frontier fleshed out the fences, because that was one of my biggest issues when I first got my hands on the pack and I saw that they have this beautiful looking rustic wooden fence, but it was just a gate. We didn't have like the actual fence pieces, and it very much confused me because, you know, what are we supposed to do with just the fences if we don't have like a matching or just the gates if we don't have a matching fence? So I'm really glad that Frontier did fix that. They added into the game like the 2 meter and the 4 meter fences for that, so I'll definitely be utilizing those as well. Another thing that I wanted to challenge myself with this park is colors. So you may obviously notice that the front entrance building is like a coral orange color, then it's like kind of a teal color, and then we go into this like warm wooden color for the barn. I tend to build very, I don't think monotone is the correct adjective to use, but very like neutral and naturalistic colors. For Mesa Gardens Zoo, I kind of started to branch out just a little bit, and then I reverted and went back to like my tried and true style, stuff that I like. But in this park, the front building for Charles Paddock is actually this color as well. And I thought it was really fun. So I decided to try to stick true to that and use some of these colors that I would otherwise almost never use. So it is something that I want to try to keep up throughout the park. The building that I want to put right behind this is kind of the barn type building, which is actually like yellow with this like really dark like maroon kind of the color that I just made these stanchions. It has that kind of like trim on it. So I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to try to stick to that. You know, yellow is a color that I almost never incorporate, but I really am committed to kind of pushing my boundaries and having fun with this project. Another thing that I'm doing right now that I almost never do and many creators do, and it just adds another little level of detail, is these decals. You know, the concrete is not going to be perfectly clean. There are going to be scuffs and scratches and dirt and wear where like the gutters are draining water onto the ground and things like that. So I really am just trying to keep a lot of that in mind. Now, moving on to this zoo sign, I originally I was gonna get really creative and I was gonna bring in some like custom fonts, which I do. This is an old font by Ryzen, but still one of the best. And I was going to actually, you know, put the zoo's name up there. And then I just decided, I don't really know why, honestly, other than, you know, for difficulty's sake, I just decided to have it say zoo. So I just made this really simplistic sign with these beams or planks that are from like the Australian pack, which are some of my favorite pieces, by the way. Far and away, I absolutely love the Australia pack wood tones and textures. But I do this really simple sign, and I think it works really well. You know, it's not overly complicated. It's not got a lot of you know, like flourish to it, and it obviously just says zoo. I thought about making it say entrance, but I didn't want it to be such a big sign. So there you go. It says what it is. It's a very simplistic sign, and I think it works well for this zoo. I'm going to add some like pots, flowers, and trees around. I'm going to do it here in just a second, I believe, taking out some of the concrete in this kind of circular pattern that I have created, and make some planters for some trees. Not only does it add some greenery, which you all know is my favorite, and I very rarely go this long without actually adding a tree or 5, but it also provides like some shadows and some shade, and which just adds, you know, a little bit more dynamic, makes it look a little bit more real. I'm gonna add some like benches and trash cans, and I didn't actually let guests in yet. I don't usually let guests into my park other than for like cinematic or picture's sake, because they do actually help fill out like some like blank spaces and open areas with them walking around and whatnot. But I play this game as a zoo building game, and I don't really care about the guests. I don't really care about if they can use things or not. I just like building pretty things, and so that is really what this project is about. I do end up, so at first I was trying to freehand this, and I do believe that I end up bringing back my like mud pillar and doing more of kind of a symmetrical curve with those curbing pieces, because then I also add, and I always forget what they're called, I add like white poles that make it so like a car can't just drive onto this front concrete area. And so I end up making those symmetrical because I absolutely could not stand how they looked not being like even and a perfect circle. So I couldn't do it. So I end up fixing that a little bit later. Adding some benches, and then of course these trash cans, these barrel trash cans, which I do believe these are the ones from the Barnyard pack, correct? Regardless, I think they're cute. They fit perfectly. Adding a little bit more detail to like this front entrance area, because that is what it looks like in real life. I ended up changing it to like a green color, even though I'm pretty sure the entirety of the fencing in the front of the Charles Paddock Zoo is black. The beams from the Australian pack, which are the ones that I was using for that kind of structure overhanging the area that you enter the zoo, selecting the color black turns them into like a dark gray color. One of my biggest issues with that piece, I love that piece doesn't necessarily have like problems with Z fighting when you duplicate it and put it on top of itself. But the color is always kind of washed out from the color that you actually pick. And that does bother me. It bothers me quite a bit. So I ended up changing it to green just so that I wouldn't have to look at it knowing that it really didn't match the black of the other fencing, you know, because it just bothered me. So I changed it. But here I am adding some of those like planter areas, and eventually, so in real life, the Charles Paddock Zoo is actually surrounded by a community park. There's a little playground, there's big open grassy areas, there's like little barbecues and picnic tables that you can come and spend the day and kind of hang out. So although I don't want to put too much effort into the surrounding space for this project, I do intend to actually put a little bit of effort into the surrounding area because, one, I want the zoo to have a nice, pretty backdrop, but two, I think it kind of completes like the feel and the image for this project that I have in mind. So just to the left of everything that we're building here will probably be like a park, maybe with a little playground, which I will absolutely steal off the workshop if there is one, because I don't know if I have an interest in building a playground. And then I'll end up doing the parking lot as well, and just little details like that. Again, I don't think I'm going to make a focus on it. It may be like one episode where we do like the park area and the parking lot, or I might just sneak in like a little bit of progress on the parking lot or the park within each individual episode. I'll kind of have to see how I feel. And I have to also decide on my dimensions for this project. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have left here. I'm going to do a few finishing touches. We have just under 10 minutes of the video left. And so I do want to mention, if you're still hanging out with me, thank you so much for the support and for watching the videos. I do hope that you're enjoying. Do remember to leave a like and subscribe, all the YouTube-y things. I'm trying to get better about including that in my videos because everything that you read says it actually does help. But also wanting to let you know about my second channel, or I guess my third channel now. It's called Simply Savannah Unwind. And I've started uploading like real-time builds. Everything that you see here on the channel going forward as a speed build will also be uploaded on my Unwind channel as a real-time build with no commentary. So it'll just be like game noises or lo-fi music, something along those lines. And that way, if I am ever building something or doing something in the game and you can't quite catch it because it is sped up quite a bit, you can go refer to that, or you can put it on in the background while you're doing chores. You can put it on in the background while you're playing yourself. Whatever you need kind of the background noise for, that's what it's there for. So this video won't be up on that channel right when this goes live, but hopefully it will be within a couple days of releasing this video here on this channel. So that is the plan for the Unwind channel. I've also got a few, like I'm doing a Stardew Valley Let's Play right now, but with no commentary. It's just game noises and music because Stardew Valley has some of the absolute best music and in-game noises for relaxing. So I'm working on that as well. So you can head on over there if you want to check that out. The link is down in the description below. I do, of course, also have my second channel, which is The Sims 4 related, which I have kind of ignored for quite a while. The poor little channel is all by itself with nothing uploaded in a long time. But I do plan to get back to that hopefully sometime soon. I guess I actually fix this? Because I think this is where I start getting frustrated that it really looks ugly. Like it does, like the center of the concrete, right? And this kind of like sunburst pattern that I have. Yeah, I do fix it right here. This sunburst pattern that I have is obviously so symmetrical and very circular. And then when I was doing that curbing and I duplicated it over to the other side, I was very irritated that it was like super noticeable, right? That it was not the same kind of circular pattern as the sunburst thing was. So here's me fixing it, doing it the correct way, just not trying to like cheat and go quick. So I'm actually utilizing the circular symmetry trick. If you're unaware of what this trick is, these mud pillars make it so that you can very easily duplicate things in a circle and make it very symmetrical. I know that's a very simplistic way of describing it. It's really not very detailed, but I do know that other creators have tutorials out, so if you just search like circular symmetry or mud pillar trick for Planet Zoo, you'll probably find it. It's a really useful trick and one that I don't use too often, but I probably should remember that it exists more often than not because it's pretty satisfying when you know how to use it. But then here I do have to fix all my concrete and put it all back into place. I did want to kind of cap off this sunburst pattern because I didn't want it to like continue on forever. again, because a lot of the stuff that I'm going to use throughout the park for pathing is probably going to be more like asphalt instead of like smooth poured concrete, just to give it like a little bit more of a rustic-y feel to it. But overall, I'm actually incredibly happy with how this came out. I sat down and built this entrance area and then also the flamingo exhibit and the walkthrough aviary. Like, I had this done in like 3 days, 4 days, I think it was. Like, I sat down and busted this out and was having so much fun, was so filled with inspiration. And then unfortunately, the hardest part about these videos is the voiceover for me. I have to be in the right mindset to be able to talk for, 30 minutes and explain to you what I'm doing and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I just don't have the mental energy to speak, but I have the mental energy to build and play video games. So that's why it's kind of taken me so long to get this put together, is I've had this in my back pocket, in addition to like a brand new Jurassic World Evolution 2 project. I just released the second episode of Bridgeview Park for Prehistoric Kingdom. I actually have quite a few videos that are like built and as far as recording the video footage all done, they just need to be edited and I just need to talk about them. So I'm trying to play a little bit of catch up and then get these things released for you all. But in the meantime, I really do appreciate your patience. I'm grabbing a couple more of these little planters off the workshop. I do forget who the creator is. I apologize. I definitely did not make those. They are beautiful though, and I absolutely love them. And they work perfectly as like kind of big dividers within the path. And then just adding some little fairy lights. I actually end up adding like a little bit more of an overhang here. Just, I don't know, just for some more like detail and fun, I guess. I don't remember. I think I might have actually seen it in my reference pictures and was like, oh, that's a fun little detail to add. So I just add a little bit more of an overhang, bring these lights out just a little bit, because that is the last thing that I wanted to make sure that I included and challenge myself with. I almost never do lighting in my projects, so I wanted it to be different for Meadowside Park and see if I can't get this all lit up and pretty, so when it gets nighttime, I can actually take some shots and it looks like it would be like a real zoo, right? Like people could walk around in the evening times and stuff like that. But we're gonna head on over to some cinematics. This is basically it for the front entrance area. Again, I'm so incredibly happy with how it turned out. I am going to try to get this on the workshop, at least like the main building, like the skeleton part of it, so that you can maybe fill it yourself with whatever you want, with a gift shop or a restaurant or whatever you think it might work best as. But get that up on the workshop for you all. The not flyers, the kind of ticket signs and whatnot were something I made a long time ago for Mayberry Park Zoo, so I can definitely get those accessible for you as well. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Do leave all your comments, feedback, and suggestions in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button, leave a like, all that fun stuff so you don't miss out on any future content. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye!